"I don't want a defective child," were the cruel words that echoed in the maternity ward when the father rejected his own baby, leaving the mother in tears. The newborn, with a visible disability, was discarded as worthless. "That's not my son," he shouted, turning his back. 2 decades later, sitting alone in front of the TV, this same man sees a face that makes him shiver. And for the first time, he cries in despair. During the most anticipated birth of their lives, instead of tears of joy, what was heard in that hospital room were screams of fury that echoed through the corridors. "I don't want this defective son in my family." James Mitchell, a well-dressed and respected 35-year-old man in the community, screamed like a wounded animal in front of his wife Rebecca, who had just given birth. The nurse delicately held Tyler, a perfect baby in every way, except for the soft features that betrayed Down syndrome. The newborn's eyes blinked slowly, as if trying to understand why what should be the happiest moment of his little life was being filled with so much hatred. "James, please, he's our son," implored Rebecca, still weak from childbirth, extending her trembling arms towards the baby. "Look at him. He's beautiful. He's our boy." But James moved away from the bed as if the child's presence was contagious. His face was red with rage, the veins bulging on his forehead, his fists clenched. "I want nothing to do with this, Rebecca. Do you hide this information from me throughout the pregnancy?" "I didn't know, James. The doctors weren't sure. I just found out now, just like you." Tears streamed down Rebecca's pale face as she struggled to stay on her feet emotionally as her world came crashing down. "But that doesn't change anything. He is our son. He is our responsibility. He is our love." Responsibility. James gave a bitter, cold laugh that cut through the air like a blade. "My responsibility is to a normal family, with normal children who can make my name proud. This here," he pointed to Tyler contemptuously, "this is a burden I refuse to carry." The nurse, an experienced lady who had witnessed many difficult situations, held Tyler tighter, as if she could protect him from the poisonous words. "Mr. Mitchell, perhaps you had better calm down. It's normal to feel shock at first, but don't tell me what's normal." James exploded, turning to the nurse with flaming eyes. "It would be normal to have a healthy, intelligent child who could follow in my footsteps. This will never be normal." Rebecca tried to sit up on the bed, but the physical pain mixed with the emotional pain in an overwhelming way. "James, please think about what you're talking about. It's our baby, it's our blood. How can you reject an innocent child?" "Innocent?" James approached the bed, his face contorted into a cruel expression. "This child will be a burden for the rest of his life. You'll never be able to support yourself. You'll never have a productive life. You'll never do anything but embarrass us. And I refuse to waste my life, my money, and my name on it." The doctor entered the room at that moment, immediately noticing the tension in the air. "Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell, I know it's a difficult time, but I would like to clarify that children with Down syndrome can have full and happy lives with the proper support." "Doctor," James interrupted in an icy voice, "I don't want to hear motivational speeches. I want to make one thing very clear. I am not going to register this child. I will not give her my name, and I want a divorce from Rebecca immediately." The silence that followed was deafening. Rebecca let out a cry of pain that echoed throughout the maternity ward. "James, you can't be serious. You can't abandon us like that." "I can, and I'm abandoning it." James straightened his suit as if he were wrapping up a business meeting. "You do whatever you want with this child, Rebecca. You can put it up for adoption. You can raise it alone. It's not my problem. My lawyer will contact you to deal with the divorce papers. But James, I love you. We built a life together. How can you throw it all away because of a condition that won't even stop our son from being happy?" James stopped in the doorway, not turning to look at her. "Because I wasn't born to be the father of a disabled person, Rebecca. I deserve a real family. Children who make me proud, not children who embarrass me in front of others. You should understand that." And with those cruel words, James Mitchell walked out of that room, stomping down the hallway as if he wanted to erase those moments from his memory. He left behind not only a broken wife and a helpless baby, but also any vestige of humanity he may have ever had. Rebecca stood there, holding Tyler in her arms, as tears fell silently on her innocent little face. "Don't cry, my love," she whispered in a choked voice. "Mommy will take care of you, see? Mom will never abandon you. We'll both be fine, I promise." In the days that followed, James fulfilled his cruel promise. He did not register Tyler, did not return to the hospital, and had already instructed his lawyer to file for divorce. Rebecca had to deal alone with all the bureaucracy, all the pain and all the reality of becoming a single mother of a special child. The nurses at the hospital were shocked by James's coldness. "I've never seen anything like it," commented one of them. "The child is beautiful, healthy. He only has Down syndrome. With love and care, he can have a wonderful life." "There are people who don't deserve to be fathers," replied another, shaking her head. "That woman is a warrior. It will give a lot of love to this child." And he was right. Even though she was emotionally broken, Rebecca found strength where she didn't even know they existed. On the first night alone with Tyler, she held him in her arms and made a promise that would mark the rest of their lives. "My son, you don't need that man's love. You have Mommy's love, and I guarantee you that this love will be enough for the two of us." Tyler, as if he understood every word, pressed his little finger on his mother's hand and smiled for the first time. It was at that moment that Rebecca knew she had made the right decision by choosing her son over the husband who abandoned her. 20 years have passed like a whirlwind of struggles, conquests, and extraordinary discoveries. Rebecca Mitchell, now 42, looked at Tyler painting in his small makeshift studio in her garage and felt her chest fill with a pride she had never imagined possible. "Mom, look how it looks." Tyler held up the screen with eyes shining with satisfaction. By the age of 20, he had grown into a tall young man with a sweet smile and an artistic sensibility that impressed everyone around him. The painting she held showed a field of sunflowers under a stormy sky, but each flower radiated a light of its own, as if carrying hope in the midst of darkness. "My love, this is too beautiful," Rebecca approached, drying her hands on her apron. Even after 2 shifts of work as a cleaner at the municipal hospital and a saleswoman at a department store, she always reserved energy to admire her son's creations. "That light technique you use, I've never seen anything like it." Tyler smiled in that special way, with a purity that touched anyone's heart. "I see different colors, Mom. When I look at the world, I see colors that other people don't see, and I want to show that to everyone." From an early age, Tyler had demonstrated a unique connection to the visual arts. While other children played with conventional toys, he spent hours drawing, painting, creating entire worlds with colored pencils and watercolor. Rebecca, even with all the financial difficulties, has always found a way to buy artistic materials for her son. "Remember when you were 5 years old and painted our first house?" Rebecca picked up an old canvas leaning against the wall. "Oh, you said our little house was sad because it didn't have enough color." Tyler laughed heartily. "And I painted it all colorful. The neighbor got mad because he splattered paint on his wall, but then he saw how beautiful it was and asked you to paint the whole wall," Rebecca added, stroking her son's hair. "You have always had this gift of transforming sadness into beauty." Life had not been easy for mother and son. Rebecca worked 3, sometimes 4 different jobs to pay for Tyler's therapies, art supplies, and living the house. He faced prejudice in places where he least expected it, heard cruel comments from ignorant people, but never allowed Tyler to feel less capable because of Down syndrome. "Mom, can I ask you something?" Tyler stopped painting and looked at Rebecca with that serious expression that always foreshadowed a deep question. "Of course, my love. You can talk. Why did my father never want to meet me?" Rebecca felt her heart tighten. It was a question Tyler asked from time to time, and she always tried to answer honestly, but without hurting him. "Tyler, you know some people are afraid of what they don't know. Your father, he was afraid and missed the chance to meet the wonderful person you have become. But I'm not scary, Mum. I'm just like everyone else. I just think a little differently." "You're not scary, my son. You are special in a beautiful way. And you know what? I'd rather have you all to myself than share it with someone who didn't know how to value you." Tyler smiled and went back to painting. "I prefer it that way too. We have each other, right, Mom? And we have art." It was at that moment that the phone rang. Rebecca answered, and on the other side came the excited voice of Marcia, owner of a small art gallery in the center of the city. "Rebecca, you need to bring Tyler here urgently." "An incredible thing happened." "Marcia, what's wrong?" "You're scaring me. Remember that exhibition of local artists that I did last month? Where do I include 3 of Tyler's works?" "I remember, so what?" An art curator from São Paulo was visiting the gallery yesterday. He saw Tyler's works and was completely fascinated. He wants to include Tyler in a national exhibition of inclusive art. Rebecca almost dropped the phone. Marcia, are you serious? Completely serious. And there's more. The exhibition is going to be at the Museum of Contemporary Art. And they want Tyler to be on a television show talking about art and inclusion. Rebecca looked at Tyler, who was painting concentrated, oblivious to the conversation that was changing his life. Marcia, I don't even know what to say. Don't say anything, just come here early tomorrow so we can talk to the curator. Rebecca, Tyler is going to be nationally recognized. That's huge. When Rebecca hung up the phone, her hands trembled. Tyler noticed and stopped painting. Mom, are you okay? It's pale. Tyler, sit here next to me. Rebecca pulled up a chair. I have news to give you that will change our lives. Good or bad news. The best news of our life, my son. Rebecca told all about Marcia's connection, about the curator from São Paulo, about the national exhibition and the television program. Tyler at first kept quiet, processing the information, then his eyes filled with tears. Mom, does that mean people are going to see my art? Millions of people, Tyler, and they will see how talented you are, how you see the world in a special and beautiful way. Tyler threw himself into his mother's arms, crying with happiness. I've always dreamed of this, Mom. I've always wanted to show the world that I can do beautiful things. And you will show, my love. You will show it to all of Brazil. That night, Rebecca lay awake, watching Tyler sleep. He remembered all the difficult moments, all the times he doubted if he was doing the right thing, all the nights he cried with tiredness and worry. But looking at this talented young man sleeping peacefully, his hands still stained with paint, she knew that every sacrifice had been worth it. Thank you, God, she whispered. Thank you for giving me the strength to never give up on him. And thank you for showing the world what I've always known, that my son is a gift. On the other side of town, James Mitchell, now 55, drove his BMW through the illuminated streets on his way home after another successful day at his consulting firm. Married for 15 years to Helena, a successful lawyer, he had built the life he had always dreamed of, a luxurious house, imported cars, international travel, and social recognition. James rarely thought about the past. He had trained his mind to forget those days in the hospital, that woman crying, that child he refused to call his son. For him, that had been an obstacle that he knew how to get around intelligently. How was the day, love? Helena asked when he got home. Productive. I closed that contract with the Japanese multinational. It will yield about $2 million this year alone. Helena smiled, pouring wine. You deserve it. I always said you would go far. James nodded with satisfaction. In his eyes, he had made all the right choices in life. There was no room in his mind for regrets or questions about untrodden paths. But life has mysterious ways of confronting us with our decisions. And for James Mitchell, that confrontation was much closer than he imagined. 3 months later, Tyler was in the national television studio, nervously adjusting the tie that Rebecca had chosen especially for that moment. The program Stories That Inspire was one of the most watched in the country, and Tyler's interview would be shown in prime time. Are you nervous, my love? Rebecca held her son's hands, which trembled slightly. A little bit, Mom. What if I say something wrong? What if people don't like me? Tyler, look at me. Rebecca lifted her son's chin so that he would look into her eyes. You just need to be yourself. It speaks from your heart, tells our story, shows people how art has changed our lives. The rest will happen naturally. The show's producer approached with a warm smile. Tyler, you're all set. Presenter Claudia Ferreira is looking forward to talking to you. She has already seen his works and was moved. Tyler took a deep breath, shook his mother's hand one last time, and walked into the studio. The lights were bright, but he remembered his mother's advice and tried to relax. With you, the young artist who is moving the whole of Brazil with his works full of sensitivity and color, Tyler Mitchell. Claudia Ferreira, a seasoned presenter known for her empathy, greeted Tyler with a warm hug. Tyler sat in the red armchair, looked at the cameras, and waved sheepishly. Hi guys. Tyler, first I want to congratulate you. His works are making a huge success in the exhibition of the Museum of Contemporary Art. Tell us, when did you discover that you had a talent for painting? Tyler smiled and all the tension seemed to dissolve. I've always painted since I was little. My mother says that I painted before I even knew how to speak properly. I think it's because I see the world differently from others, you know? I see colors that other people don't see. And how is this different way of seeing the world? Oh yes. It's as if everything had a special light. When I'm sad, I see darker colors, but there's always a little light somewhere. When I'm happy, everything is colorful. Even the things that people think are ugly are beautiful. Claudia leaned forward, clearly touched by Tyler's sincerity. Tyler, you have Down syndrome, and you've always been very open about it. How do you deal with prejudices? Tyler thought for a moment before answering, with that maturity that always surprised those who knew him. Look, sometimes people look at me and think I can't do things, but I show them that I can. I can paint, I can talk, I can dream. I'm just like everyone else, I just think a little slower, but I get to the same place. And your mother, what is its role in your trajectory? Tyler's eyes filled with tears, but they were tears of gratitude. My mother is my hero. She never gave up on me, never made me feel like I was less capable. When people said bad things about me, she always stood up for me. She worked 2-3 jobs to buy my art supplies. The camera focused on Tyler's face, capturing every genuine emotion. My mom would always say, Tyler, you can be anything you want to be, you just have to believe in yourself, and she was right. And your father, Tyler? Is he part of your life? The silence that followed was charged with emotion. Tyler looked down for a moment, then lifted his face with a serene but deeply touching expression. My father, he never wanted to meet me. When I was born, he didn't accept that I had Down syndrome and abandoned me and my mother in the hospital. Tyler's voice remained quiet, but there was a deep sadness in his words. He said he didn't want a defective son. The entire studio was silent. Claudia Ferreira, an experienced professional, needed a few seconds to compose herself. Tyler, how do you feel about that? Look, I was angry for a long time, you know? I didn't understand why a father couldn't love his son just because he was different. But my mother taught me something very important. She taught me that true love never gives up. Hence that I didn't need the love of those who didn't know how to value me. Tyler looked directly into the camera, and his next words would echo throughout Brazil. If my dad is watching this show, I want him to know one thing: I forgive him. But I also want him to know that he missed the chance to meet a person who just wanted to love and be loved. And that my mom, Rebecca Mitchell, gave me so much love that I never missed anything else. Tears ran down Claudia Ferreira's face. In the audience, people wiped their eyes. In Brazilian homes, millions of viewers were moved by those words, full of maturity and forgiveness. Tyler, do you have a message for the people who are watching? Tyler smiled, and his inner light seemed to illuminate the entire studio. I want to say, especially to parents who have special children, don't give up on us. We may be different, but we love, we dream, we have talents. We just need a chance. And I want to tell the special children, you are unique, you have a purpose. You can make a difference in the world. I am proof of that. When the show ended, Tyler left the studio and ran into his mother's arms. Mom, I did it. I said everything I wanted to say. You were perfect, my love. Perfect. On the other side of town, James Mitchell was at home watching television with Helena and the couple's 2 children, 12-year-old Amanda and 10-year-old Eduardo. James was on the couch fiddling with his cell phone, paying little attention to the program the family was watching. James, stop fiddling with the phone and watch this interview, Helena asked. This boy is exciting. Look at the art he makes. James looked up absent-mindedly at the television. On the screen, Tyler showed one of his works to Claudia Ferreira. James was going to look at his phone again when something made him stop. The eyes of the young man on television were the same as yours. How strange, he muttered, focusing more attention on the screen. What's wrong, Dad? Asked Amanda. Nothing, daughter. This boy reminds me of someone. When Tyler started talking about his childhood, about being abandoned by his father, James felt a chill down his spine. But it was when Tyler mentioned his mother's full name that James's world came crashing down. My mom, Rebecca Mitchell, gave me so much love. The cell phone slipped out of James' hands and fell to the ground with a bang. His face instantly paled and he staggered up from the couch. James, what's wrong? Are you feeling sick? Helena stood up worried. James couldn't answer. He stared at the screen, where Tyler continued to speak with a maturity and kindness that cut through his soul like razors. If my dad is watching this show, I want him to know that I forgive him. It was at that moment that James fell to his knees on the living room floor, letting out a cry of anguish that frightened the entire family. "That's my son." The silence in the Mitchells' room was broken only by the sound of the television, where Tyler continued his interview with a serenity that contrasted drastically with the chaos that had settled in the room. "James, what did you say?" Helena was paralyzed, looking at her husband who remained on his knees on the floor, trembling. "What do you mean this is your son?" Amanda and Eduardo looked at each other confused. "Dad, we don't understand," Eduardo said in a small voice. James tried to get up, but his legs would not obey. 20 years of denial. 20 years of pretending that moment in the hospital had never existed. 20 years of building a life on the lie, that he had made the right choice. And now it all crumbled before his eyes. I need to explain something to you." James managed to sit on the couch, his hands shaking uncontrollably. "Before I met your mother, I was married to a woman named Rebecca." Helena crossed her arms, her face hardening. "And you never told me that. Why?" Because I tried to forget. We had a son, but when he was born..." James couldn't finish the sentence, looking at the screen where Tyler was smiling with angelic purity. "When he was born what, James?" Helena's voice was getting louder. "He was born with Down syndrome, and I abandoned both." The rumble of Helena's slap of James echoed through the room. Amanda began to cry, and Eduardo hid behind the armchair. "Did you abandon a woman and a baby because the child had a disability?" Helena screamed now, out of her mind. "What kind of monster did I marry?" On television, Tyler continued, "I always wanted to meet my dad, you know? Not out of anger, but out of curiosity. I wanted to ask him if he regretted it, if he sometimes thought about me. But today I understand that maybe it's better this way. Because those who couldn't love me when I was a helpless baby may not be able to love me now either." James let out a groan of pain as if he had been punched in the stomach. Those words, spoken with such sweetness and wisdom, were more devastating than any cry of anger. "Helena, I can explain." James tried to approach his wife. "Explain what? That you are capable of abandoning a child? That you lied to me for 15 years? That you are a heartless coward?" Amanda stopped crying and looked at her father with an expression James would never forget. It was pure contempt. "Dad, is that boy on television my brother?" "Amanda, it's complicated." "It's not complicated at all." The 12-year-old girl spoke with surprising maturity. "Either it is or it is not." "It is," James whispered, the word coming out like a defeated sigh. "And you abandoned him because he's different?" James couldn't answer. On the screen, Tyler showed another work, explaining how each color represented a different feeling. His emotional intelligence and artistic sensibility were evident in every word. Eduardo, who had hidden, got out from behind the seat. "Dad, I want to meet my brother. He looks really cool." "Eduardo, you don't understand, and I do understand." The 10-year-old boy had tears in his eyes. "You didn't like him because he's different, but he's so much cooler than you." Helena turned to James with a controlled fury. "So I want you to leave this house now, and it won't come back until I decide what I'm going to do with this situation. Helena, please, let's talk calmly." "Get out of here," she shouted. "I can't even look at you right now." James grabbed the car keys with trembling hands and left the house. In the car, he turned on the loud sound to muffle the sobs he couldn't control. He drove aimlessly through the city, stopping at all the traffic lights to wipe away the tears that kept flowing. At one point, he parked in front of the Museum of Contemporary Art, where Tyler's works were on display. Even though it was almost 10 at night, there were still people leaving the exhibition, commenting emotionally on the young artist's talent. "What a special boy," commented a lady to her husband. "What sensitivity. His works touch the soul." "It's true," the man replied. "And did you see the interview today? What an impressive maturity. His mother must be very proud." James got out of the car and approached the posters advertising the exhibition. Here was Tyler, smiling in the promotional photo, holding one of his canvases. The poster read, "Colors of the Soul. Tyler Mitchell, 20 years old, a new perspective on art and inclusion." 20 years, James muttered to himself. 20 years that I could have known this extraordinary boy. He tried to enter the museum, but it was already closed. He stood there looking through the glass at the works he could see in the distance. Each canvas was an explosion of color and emotion, a living testament to the talent he had rejected. That night, James did not return home. He stayed in the car in the museum's parking lot, reliving every moment of that terrible day in the hospital. He remembered Rebecca's face of despair, Tyler's first cries, the coldness with which he had rejected this innocent baby. "What have I done?" he would repeat to himself. "My God, what have I done?" On the other side of town, Rebecca and Tyler were coming home after a night of celebration. The interview had been an absolute success, and they were already receiving invitations to exhibitions in other states. "Mom, did you think I spoke well about my father?" Tyler asked as he got ready for bed. Rebecca held her son's face with affection. "You spoke from the heart, my love, and he spoke with a maturity that he never had. I'm very proud of you. Do you think he saw the show?" "I don't know, Tyler, but if he did, I'm sure he was very shaken, because he missed the chance to meet the most special person in the world." Tyler smiled and kissed his mother on the forehead. "Thank you for never giving up on me, Mom. I would never give up, my son. You are the best thing that has happened in my life." While Tyler slept peacefully, dreaming of colors and shapes, James remained awake in the car, confronting for the first time in his life the devastating consequences of his choices. And for the first time in 20 years, he wept with true repentance. 3 weeks have passed since the interview that shook Brazil and destroyed James Mitchell's life. The repercussion was even greater than everyone expected. Tyler became a national phenomenon, receiving invitations to exhibitions, lectures, and even proposals to write a book about his journey. That Tuesday morning, Rebecca was in the kitchen making coffee when she heard the doorbell ring insistently. It was strange because Tyler was still asleep and they didn't expect anyone. "Who will it be at this time?" she murmured, wiping her hands on her apron. When she opened the door, she was paralyzed. Here was James Mitchell, but not the arrogant, well-dressed man who had abandoned her in the hospital 20 years ago. This James had scruffy grey hair, deep dark circles, a thin face, and an expression of despair that she had never seen. "Rebecca." "Please, I need to talk to you." Rebecca held tight to the doorknob, her entire body stiffening. "What do you want here, James?" I saw Tyler's interview." The words were choked, as if each one cost a piece of their soul. "I didn't know. I didn't imagine he had become—" "What has it become?" "An amazing person. A talented artist? A young man full of love and kindness?" Rebecca interrupted, her voice heavy with 20 years of contained hurt. "You didn't imagine why you never bothered to find out." James tried to step forward, but Rebecca closed the door wider. "Please, Rebecca, let me explain. Let me at least see him." "See him?" Rebecca gave a bitter laugh. "After 20 years, after abandoning us in the hospital, after refusing to even register your own son, do you want to see him?" "I was wrong, Rebecca. I was completely wrong. I didn't know. I didn't understand." "You didn't understand what, James?" "That a child with Down syndrome could be intelligent, talented, loving, that she could have a full and happy life. Or did you just not understand it until you saw him on television being applauded by millions of people?" James lowered his head, tears flowing freely. "I know I have no excuse. I know I was a monster. But now I want to try. I want to meet my son. Your son." Rebecca's voice rose in tone. "Tyler ceased to be your son the moment you called him defective. Tyler is my son. I raised him alone. I worked 3 jobs to give him everything he needed. I dried his tears when he asked why his father didn't want him." At that moment, Tyler appeared in the room, still in his pajamas, awakened by the argument. When he saw the man at the door, he frowned in confusion. "Mom, who is it?" The silence that followed was fraught with tension. James looked at Tyler, and it was as if 20 years had disappeared. Here was the baby he had rejected, now a tall, handsome young man with the same piercing eyes, but charged with a wisdom and kindness that could never be measured. "Tyler," James whispered, his voice broken with emotion. I am your father." Tyler watched the man for a few seconds, his expression remaining serene. "I know who you are. I saw your picture when I was little." James stepped forward, hopeful. "Tyler, I want to apologize to you. I want to explain—" "You don't need to explain anything," Tyler interrupted with a disconcerting calm. "My mother has already told me everything. You didn't want me because I'm different." The devastating simplicity of those words made James stagger. "Tyler, I was wrong. I was young, I was ignorant, I didn't know—" "You don't know me," Tyler said, looking James straight in the eye. "You don't know that I like to paint sunflowers when I'm sad. You don't know that I'm afraid of thunder. You don't know that I have a birthday on March 15th. You don't know anything about me. Tyler's every word was like a stab at James. But I want to know, son. I want to learn. I want to get to know you. Tyler looked at his mother, then turned his eyes to James. You want to meet me now because you saw on television that I am successful. But what if I were just an ordinary boy with Down syndrome, working in a bakery or a store? Would you want to meet me too? James didn't know how to answer. Tyler's emotional intelligence left him speechless. I think so, Tyler continued. If you couldn't love me when I was a helpless baby, when I needed it most, why would I believe you can love me now? Rebecca approached Tyler, placing her hand on his shoulder. Tyler, you don't have to talk to him if you don't want to. It's okay, Mom. I want to talk. Tyler looked at James again. I forgive you, because my mother taught me that holding anger is bad for us. But forgiving doesn't mean I want you in my life. James fell to his knees in the doorway. Tyler, please give me a chance. I can change. I can be a better father. I already have everything I need, Tyler replied with a tranquility that cut deeper than any scream. I have a mother who loves me unconditionally. I have my art. I have people who believe in me. I don't need someone who only showed up because I became famous. Rebecca looked at James with an expression that mixed pity and firmness. James, you made your choice 20 years ago. Now Tyler has the right to do his. Rebecca, please, or no, she interrupted. You lost that right the moment you left that hospital. Tyler grew up without you, became this wonderful person without you, and will continue to be happy without you. Tyler approached the door, looking at James one last time. I hope you learn to love people for who they are, not for what they can give you. And I hope he will be a better father to his other children. With those words, Tyler turned and went back inside the house. Rebecca looked at James one last time. Now you know what you missed, James, and you're going to have to live with it for the rest of your life, and closed the door. James stood there for a few minutes, sobbing on the sidewalk. Neighbors began to look out the windows, some recognizing the situation. When she finally got up and left, she knew she had lost forever the chance to meet her son. In the months that followed, Tyler's life continued its upward trajectory. His exhibitions spread across the country. He released an art book with inspirational messages and became a national ambassador for inclusion. He lectured in schools, universities, and companies, always carrying his message of love and acceptance. Rebecca fulfilled her dream of opening a studio specializing in art for people with disabilities. Mother and son worked together, helping other families discover their children's special talents. James, on the other hand, lost everything. Helena filed for divorce and took her children, who refused to talk to their father after finding out about Tyler. His business began to fail when the story became public. Clients canceled contracts, partners walked away, and he found himself alone with his belated regret. On a Sunday afternoon, 6 months after that failed visit, James was sitting on a park bench when he saw Tyler walking by with Rebecca. They laughed at something, carried canvases to a new exhibition, were the perfect image of happiness. James watched them from afar, knowing he could never get close. Tyler saw him, nodded politely, but kept walking. There was no anger in his gesture, only indifference. And James realized that this indifference hurt more than any hatred. In that moment, James understood the true dimension of his loss. He had not lost just one child. He had lost the chance to know a pure soul, a generous heart, a brilliant mind. I had lost the opportunity to grow as a human being, to learn about unconditional love, to become a better person. And now, seeing Tyler happy and fulfilled, James knew that the greatest punishment was not what he had lost, but knowing that Tyler had never needed him to be complete. Justice had been done, not through revenge or hatred, but through love that conquered, talent that flourished, and kindness that prevailed over cruelty. Tyler Mitchell continued to paint his sunflowers under stormy skies, always finding light even in the darkness. And James Mitchell learned too late that the real flaw had never been in the child he rejected, but in the heart he didn't know how to love. The end comment, true love. So I know you've made it to the end of this heartwarming story, and mark your comment with a beautiful heart. And just like Tyler and Rebecca's story, I have other inspiring narratives to share with you. Just click on the video that is now appearing on your screen and embark on another exciting journey. A big kiss, and I'll wait for you there.